this is really a time of opportunity. There happen to be 3 women on this panel right now, and we all happen to be leaders. There's been a lot of gender disparity in pay, inequality, and inclusion in the last decades. Is this an opportunity for a lot of that to be potentially corrected, not just for women, but as a larger topic on diversity and inclusion? Are there ways that employers can take this time as an opportunity to really address some of those issues? I'd love to hear from you on that, Bridget.
One of the things that I am the most excited about with what's happening in the workplace today, about this transition that we've been talking about, is the opportunity that it affords us, in particular with diversity and inclusion. Because in the old traditional way, pre-March 2020, for those of us in the United States, you're expecting people to come into the office 5 days a week, then you're kind of locked into that geographic area that you're in, right? And you're locked into whatever diversity exists within that geographic area. Now that we've proven that we can work from home effectively, that opens up the entire world in terms of opportunity for people to join your organization, because they don't necessarily have to be there in person in your office for them to be productive, because you just proved that your whole company can work productively, or parts of your company can work productively remotely. So I think that this is an enormous opportunity for organizations to really be able to improve on their diversity and inclusion. And like everything we talked about here, it's going to be a lot of work. These things don't just happen. You need to make an effort. You need to think about it. You need to make a plan on how you're going to use this as that opportunity. Then you need to execute on that plan. But I think that if you miss out on this opportunity, you're really just missing out on all the greatness that comes from a company that has a lot of diversity and is able to tap into that talent that they've got internally.
Wonderful. And I'd like to hear from you as well, Nicole, on your perspective on that.
I've had a few conversations lately about job sharing. So you could go get 2 stay-at-home parents potentially that, could split the day. So that way they can be successfully staying at home and still being able to feel like they have a successful career, and that, they're adding value back to their day of being challenged, and missing out on the business side. So I think that's a great opportunity. I think one of the things that companies should be considering is most job specs have 10 plus years as their experience. I think if you start to take a step back and say, we have some people that can teach some of these skill sets, and looking at some of the younger resources coming out, there are a lot more options now from a diversity and inclusion perspective, that if you're just willing to invest a little bit more time in training, you'll be able to get there so much faster. And having that diversity on your teams is amazing. And just being able to hear different perspectives, how people interpret things, it's a great opportunity for teams to grow. It's just, to Bridget's point, this is a lot of work. You have to be cognizant about making those decisions and building those programs and making those opportunities available to be able to grow your team in that manner.
Studies and research has proven time and time again that it is beneficial to the bottom line for every organization to have a diverse workforce. It just supports growth. It just supports success. With your guys' background, can you please offer some advice based on your experiences, on what you're seeing on the ground, what you expect in the future? What advice do you have, not only for the next generation that's coming in to the talent workforce, but for the people that are sort of shuffling? So what advice do you have for people who are in transition? And I'd love to start with you, Bridget.
Along the lines of some of the things that we've already talked about, I think being flexible and being thoughtful is really, really important. Because like we've talked about throughout the course of this discussion, there's so much that is changing right now. And you need to accept that, you might not be able to control how that change goes to every extent that you want to. You might not know what that change is exactly going to be like when it's done, what your work environment's going to be like, what your home life is going to be like. You just kind of need to work through it for yourself and look at each thing as it's happening and assessing it, right? And thinking about each thing, which again, like we said, everything here, it requires work, but it's absolutely, absolutely worth it to keep the teams that you have that are doing the great work that they're doing, and to make sure that you're happy in the role that you're in. You've got a lot of control here. It might not feel like it sometimes, but you've got a lot of control here. You need to speak up. You need to think about what it is that you want, and you need to communicate that, and you need to work with your peers and your management and whomever you need to work with to make sure that your situation at work is working for you.
Wonderful. And same question to you, Nicole.
So one of the advice I give everybody just in general on my team is I try to do my best at understanding the situations and how you're feeling and how you're doing. And I can read them much, much better. They're physically by me. I can see them. I can see if they look overwhelmed or they're not getting enough sleep because they have a newborn at home, or, those types of things. But remote world is so much harder to get that read and that understanding if they're happy, if they're overwhelmed. There's something going on at home that is impacting their work. And my advice to them and to anyone coming in new to the work environment is just have a talk to your manager. Let them know you're being challenged, or even if you're unhappy in what you're working on, your manager can never fix the scenario if they don't know about it. And so being able to have that open line of communication and getting that feedback is an opportunity for both sides to be able to find a better scenario for the individual. If that communication doesn't happen, it may not get fixed and they may walk away, which is not what you want to happen. But it also is both parties need to be invested in ensuring that it's working. So that would be my advice to them, is just making sure that they're communicating. Or to Bridget's point, if the role isn't the right role for them, likely there's another role that they could possibly try to see if it is a better fit. But you have to have a conversation to get to that point.
Yeah. And to your point, not only are we not going to nail it on the first try, but we don't know when this is all going to potentially end as well. So there's a lot of unknowns. But having said that, this was a wonderful conversation. And I want to thank both of you for joining me in having this very important discussion on what we're facing right now. Thank you again, Nicole. Thank you, Bridget. And we look forward to talking to you again soon.